All right, man, peace. So I received so many requests from brothers for me to make a video pertaining to some of LeBron James's more ardent super fans in the liberal sports media. Brothers wanted me to talk about Nick Wright and Max Kellerman and some of these other media pundits, and of course Shannon Sharpe. This was one of the main clips that I was able to find in my DVR in regards to Shannon's reaction to his man LeBron James getting swept in the finals. So of course they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Here we go. Started with LeBron. He reportedly punched a whiteboard in the locker room after the Cavs lost Game 1 and played the remaining 3 games with a bone contusion in his shooting hand. He averaged 34 points, 8.5 boards, and 10 assists in the series, but his scoring and field goal percentage all went down after Game 1. LeBron showed up to the post-game press conference on Friday with a cast on his hand and talked about the incident. Let's take a listen.
What happened? Self-inflicted. Post-game after Game 1, very emotional. For a lot of different reasons, understanding how important a Game 1 is on the road for our ball club. What would that done for us? The way we played, the calls that was made throughout the course of that game.
Right, brother, but right now you're in the press conference after Game 4, not after Game 1. You're still talking about what occurred in Game 1. A true leader understands how to put past events in the past and keep them there. And not just in sports, but also in life. Brothers have to be leaders over their own consciousness. You can't let traumatic events haunt you for your whole life. There are certain things that are going to happen. You have to be able to compartmentalize things so that you can move forward and be a functional individual. And we see a microcosm of that in how LeBron James chose to deal with the trauma that occurred in Game 1 of the NBA Finals. The brother did not handle it well enough. He allowed it to trickle down into Games 2, 3, and 4. And it's the main reason why they got swept.
And I had emotions on, the game was taken away from us. I had emotions of, you just don't get an opportunity like this on the road.
Yes, you do. It's called overtime. The game was not over in regulation. You had an entire other 5 minutes to win the game, LeBron James. You didn't even score in overtime, I don't think. So, let's be for real. You gave up after that whole situation happened with J.R. Smith and George Hill missing the free throw. You didn't pull it together after that situation occurred.
Versus Golden State to be able to get a Game 1. And, I let the emotions get the best of me and pretty much played the last 3 games with a broken hand, so.
Shannon, how much of a pass do you give LeBron?
And once again, let's let it be known that LeBron James's right hand was not broken.
Well, I don't think he deserves a pass because the injury that he suffered was self-inflicted. And I can just imagine, the frustration. I'm thinking to myself,
after Game 1, I myself had a serious bone contusion in my right foot after I kicked out my 101-inch large screen TV, Skip Bayless. I told you that after Game 1. Just retarded Smith pissed me off that bad. So I sympathize with LeBron. I know what it's like to be so emotional, so upset after you feel like you've been robbed. I felt like I was robbed as a fan and as a spouse. So yeah, I kicked out my TV. So I can't get mad at LeBron. Why was there a whiteboard in the locker? Shit, we're not in school. They already know what play they're going to run. Get the ball to LeBron, get out the way. There's no need for a whiteboard to be there. I blame the whiteboard, not LeBron.
Can you imagine looking at the frustration on his face, Skip, once Ty Lue tells him that they had a timeout and you see him slump in his seat, and you're thinking, wow, man, look at
the top of that man's head. That's what I thought to myself as he slumped in his seat. I said, goodness gracious, great balls of fire. It looked like somebody dropped the atom bomb on the top of that man's head.
Look at the frustration that he's putting on display in front of the world to see. I can imagine what it was going to be like behind closed doors. Well, we no longer have to imagine because he was so upset that he punched the chalkboard and he ended up breaking his hand. Now, I would have felt better if he put that hand upside JR's head than I...
Yeah, that's what I would have felt. I said, shit, JR, come over here for a second. I got to talk to you. Pow. Problem solved.
Then I'd have had no problem with it, Skip Bayless. I don't care, little problem. Because we know somebody, we know somebody went around socking people all the time, don't we, Skip?
In practice?
Yeah, okay.
This dude always bringing up Michael Jordan, but then can't wait to go to his parties. Ain't that a bitch?
Skip, he was always drawing dead. We saw what happened in the 51-8 ball game in the first game, and they lost in overtime. And even with a broken hand, he averaged 29, 11, and 8. So I think he should be commended for playing as well as he did.
No, sir. No. He should not be commended for playing as well as he did. For him to have a game 1 of 51, 8 and 8, and then only average 29, 11 and 8 at the end of the series tells you how much his production dropped off precipitously. And of course, we're not going to expect LeBron to average 51 points a game. But the fact of the matter is that he gave up in game 4. There's no getting around that. He gave up on his teammates and he gave up on himself.
But something wasn't right, Skip. Something was not right.
I knew it, Skip. When LeBron came home that night after game 3, I said, oh shit, we about to get swept. That's what I told Savannah and the kids. Because I know that look, Skip. I know that look when he come home and he got his head down and his bed's all nappy. I said, oh shit, LeBron about to give up again.
You're talking about a guy that went from can't miss up into game 1, going all the way back into Toronto series, Boston series, Indiana series. A guy that couldn't miss. All of a sudden, he couldn't buy a shot outside the paint. And he went from being 74%, finishing at the rim, all the way down to 59%. Like, huh? All of a sudden, LeBron can't finish. I'm wondering, why is he always trying to get to his left hand? Why is he always trying to lay the ball up on the left side?
Yeah. Skip, I'm watching game 2 and 3, and I'm like, God damn. You right the cup, nigga. Lay it up with the right hand. Every time he go to the basket, he trying to find a way to get it to the left. And then he come home, he eating his food, he got his fork in his left hand. I said, what the fuck is going on with you? What's wrong with you? So I shook his hand. Nigga broke down and started crying. I said, okay, something wrong. Let me leave you alone.
Even when he's on the right side of the rim, he's still trying to lay the ball up with his right hand. I'm like, well, okay, hey, God's best player, the guy's the best player in the NBA, so he knows, obviously he knows something that I don't know. But Skip, you look at this, he only took 14 shots outside of the paint over the last 3 games. Because you remember, you and I was talking about it, game 1, mid-range game, clicking, letting threes go, obviously finishing at the rim.
Shannon Sharp, once again, if you led your soliloquy by stating that the wound was self-inflicted, why are you going on and on about it as if he was able to transcend some type of injury? He was not injured. He hurt himself. No one talks about Isaiah Thomas twisting his ankle in Game 6 of the 1988 Finals and barely being able to help his team in Game 7. All people see is that the Lakers won in 7. That happens. Once again, in the 1991 Finals, Michael Jordan hit a shot to send the game into overtime. He came down on his foot. He had a major bone bruise on one of the toes on his right foot, and he was still able to dominate the last 2 games and the overtime of Game 3 to win that series. That's what great players do. They play through it. LeBron was unable to get through that series without trying to manufacture a way to make himself a sympathetic figure.
And then all of a sudden, he took 11 3-pointers. So he got to the points game 2 through 4. It was either a 3-pointer or he was trying to get to the rim.
Well, Shannon Sharp, let's be for real. If your point is that LeBron James's right hand injury hampered him, then why are you stating that either he went to the rim or he took a 3-pointer? If the injury was that bad that he was unable to take jump shots and he was taking just 3-pointers and layups, that pretty much means that he was playing his regular game. That's pretty much what that means. Maybe he wasn't taking that many mid-range jump shots because the defense was better on him from games 2 to 4.
There was nothing in between. And Golden State was like, hey, if you ain't going to try the mid-range, we're just going to, we'll give you the 3, but we're not going to let you get to the paint. And inserting JaVale McGee.
As we saw by those highlights, the defense on LeBron definitely stepped it up a notch after Game 1.
Was a big deterrent in that. But I knew something wasn't right, Skip. Something just didn't seem right because I'm watching him. And I know LeBron James, and I've watched almost every game he's ever played. I've watched every dribble he's almost taken.
Absolutely, Skip. From the time he was in high school, when I first saw that man on ESPN, I said, wow, I got to hitch my star to his wagon because I feel like he's going to be special. And when I met that man in Savannah about 10 years ago and we agreed to get married, I knew from then that was the best decision of my life.
Something wasn't right, and now it's starting to add up why all of a sudden he wouldn't do anything but drive the ball and shoot three-point shots. Skip, I do not believe, let's just say for the sake of argument for this conversation, for this topic, LeBron James has an uninjured hand. I don't believe the final outcome would have been any different. But I do believe the numbers. Okay, so now instead of averaging 34, 10, and 9, he averages 38, 12, and 11. I believe the end result is the same. So I can't give him a pass because of the injury, because he caused the injury to himself. But don't let that fool you now, Skip. We know who's still the best player on the planet here, even with a broken hand.
Let me say this, Shannon Sharp, and many people may disagree with me. I do still believe that LeBron James is the overall best player in the NBA. But the distance is closing. Right now, it's hard to tell that much of a difference between LeBron and Kevin Durant when you squint. Now, when your eyes are wide open, yeah, it's still LeBron. But there are so many things that Kevin Durant can do off the ball that LeBron James is unwilling to do. There's so many things that Kevin Durant does off the ball that LeBron James is not willing to do, starting with defense, running off picks, jump shooting, off the catch, things of that nature.
So, I've got to clean up several things you just said.
Okay.
Number one, we're having to trust, because this came from LeBron and his inner circle, that he actually hit a chalkboard or whiteboard with his hand. So you're leaping all the way to the conclusion it was broken when he in fact did say, according to him and his insiders, that they did MRI it and it was not broken, it was only a bruised hand. So
That's
can
not
we
what
at
he
least...
said.
No, he didn't say. He said
basically I played the game with a broken hand.
Okay, but that...
So in other words, he lied, Shannon Sharp. You see how Shannon Sharp takes whatever LeBron James states as gospel truth? The hand was not broken. Just because he said it does not make it the truth.
Okay, but that's basically because it wasn't broken.
Absolutely. That was my contention from the very start. When somebody says that they're suffering through a condition and they preface it by using the word basically, what they're basically saying is that that's not actually what has occurred.
Okay, so he's saying that the pain was of a broken hand, but that the hand was not broken. So let's get that straight for the record.
Okay.
And now, for my biggest picture takeaway, this is just pathetic and shameful for the
Thank you, sir.
For the best player on the planet, one of the greatest players ever. This doesn't deserve any pass. It deserves only ridicule. For him to come to the post-game media session and hold up a soft cast on...
I agree. The nigga came to the post-game media session with his wife's scarf wrapped around his right hand.
On his hand as a prop to sort of lead his blind witnesses down the path of, oh, LeBron deserves a pass and an excuse.
And that's all it was about. And for him to have the nerve near the end of the interview to look out at the gathered media and say, you guys like this cast, right? And be there smiling like a 12-year-old boy. That shit was so ridiculous.
For stinking up the finals, that he stunk that finals up even worse than he did the 2011 finals in his first go-round.
I disagree with that. Nothing could be as bad as 2011, Skip Bayless.
Round with the Heat against the Dallas Mavericks. At least in that finals, they were up 2-1 when the chosen one turned into the frozen one. And in this one, after game one, he and his team were just flat out pathetic. They were non-competitive. I've never seen anything quite like it.
Well, it's because his teammates were feeding off of LeBron's energy. And that's basically what Kobe Bryant was talking about when he stated that there's a lot more to leadership than just passing your teammates the ball. You have to train them mentally. That's why I was quizzical when LeBron James had the nerve to state in that post-game press conference that he thought he could get his team to gel by the end of the season. How could you expect that? How could you reasonably assess the situation that you were in with 4 or 5 players who'd barely been in the playoffs to believe that you could galvanize them and make them come together in a way that would lead them to being a viable championship level team? Give me a break.
It from a player of LeBron's greatness. So I do not believe he had anything more than a bruised hand, if that.
That's all he had, Skip.
I do not believe, as he claimed, that he pretty much played the last 3 games with a broken hand. I'm not buying any of that. I didn't see that at all. And
so you didn't notice any difference between game 1 and game 2, 3, and 4?
The main difference that was noticeable after game 1 was the Warriors playing a far higher level of defense. That was the main thing that was noticeable. And then when you bring Andre Iguodala into the fold in game 3, that's just another elite level perimeter defender for LeBron James to have to deal with. And then when you combine that with the fact that he has no confidence in his teammates and they're basically playing an offensive system meant to just highlight his skills and make sure that he fills out the stat sheet, of course they had no chance. After game 1, Steph Curry was on record as stating that when they looked at the film, even though they saw that LeBron was phenomenal, of course, they made it way too easy for him.
you know what I noticed? I noticed that LeBron James, at the end of regulation in game 1, quit on his team. I
agree.
I noticed that he threw a tantrum and basically threw in the towel while sitting on the bench in a way that no great leader ever would have. Any great leader, any Shannon Sharp or Ray Lewis would have been trying to rally the troops at that point and say, we're starting fresh, it's 0-0. In game 1 at Oakland, we have them on the ropes. And instead, LeBron continued to pout all the way into the overtime. Didn't even take a shot for the first 2:26 of overtime, when, by the way, his hand, according to him, was completely 100% okay then, because he slugged the whiteboard, according to him, after that game was...
Ding. What happened to LeBron James in the overtime of game 1? He totally gave up. Totally gave up. And as Skip Bayless so correctly asserts, he was nowhere to be found mentally after that J.R. Smith play, and he cannot blame the whiteboard for that.
Was over. And when he finally did take 4 half-hearted shots down the stretch of overtime, he missed all 4 of them, and they got blown off the floor 17-7 in overtime. I think he quit on his team. I think his team quit on him.
Look, LeBron cannot even look at Tyronn Lue, throwing a tantrum like a petulant child. Now look at George Hill in the bottom right. He's paying very close attention. Even J.R. Smith is paying close attention to what's going on, whatever Tyronn Lue is stating. The only one who's looking away is LeBron James. And at the bottom of the screen, you also see Rodney Hood looking away, but he already knows he's not going to get to play. So what is LeBron James' excuse for tapping out after regulation? What's his excuse?
On him, and they were non-competitive.
What you mean quit on him?
I think they all just sort of threw up their hands and said, that's our leader? That's all we got?
Do you realize Kyle Korver made no shots after game?
And look at that. At the very end of that clip, it looked like they all put their hands in to show a sign of team unity, and LeBron James acted as if he did not want to do so. Let me rewind it back.
Game.
And they were non-competitive.
What you mean quit on him?
I think they all just...
Now look at that. They all put their hands in the center to show unity. Larry Nance Jr. is looking at LeBron. LeBron is still looking away. Even Jetty Osman is looking at LeBron. They're looking at him for leadership, for inspiration. What is he doing? He's looking away like a petulant child.
All just sort of threw up their hands and said, that's our leader? That's all we got?
Finally, at the end, he hesitantly put his left hand in.
Do you realize Kyle Korver made no shots after game 1?
Yeah.
1 of 16 from the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Green was 29% from the floor. He was 21% from the 3. So what do you mean they quit? When did they start? In order for you to quit something, you have to start.
They go as their leader goes.
Ding.
And he went completely south on them at the end of game 1. You know it, and I know it. That was the series in a nutshell, right there on the bench that we got to see the extended footage of.
Prior to the overtime, he had gone 49, 8, and 8.
Oh, it was tremendous.
So where were they at then? You say they go as he go. He was going. So where were they then?
They were in
the game, Shannon Sharp. They were in Golden State. What more did you expect from them? They had a chance to take the lead. George Hill missed the free throw. It's up to LeBron James to state, okay, we start fresh from here, 0-0. Follow me home. That's it.
In position to close the deal and win the game.
No,
LeBron James had the basketball in his hand with 7 seconds left and little Steph Curry on him at the top of the circle. Close the deal. Take the do-or-die shot, the win-or-lose shot, a jump shot, like you just said. He was 7 of 14 outside the paint. I've never seen him shoot the ball better from distance in a big game than he had in game 1.
Well, you make my point for me.
Okay, just shoot it. Okay. Shoot the shot.
Think about this, Skip.
And he passed to George Hill? Really?
I really appreciate you making my point for me, because guess what? He was 7 of 14 from the mid-range game in game 1. He only attempted 11 mid-range shots, 2, 3, and 4. So you're making my point for me. I really appreciate that.
No, really the only point that you're making, Shannon Sharp, is that you don't truly understand what transpired in that series after game 1, which is the point that Skip Bayless is making. LeBron gave up on his teammates after regulation of game 1. They read the energy and they gave up thereafter.